The Colorado Office of Economic Development and International Trade has finalized its list of proposed locations for internet giant Amazon to consider for new headquarters. The undisclosed list of 8 Denver metro area locations will be submitted for final approval on October 16th, creating mixed feelings among residents and business owners. Patty, this is a big deal. I think maybe Denver in a different time would be really, really excited. I've always loved your example of Denver being the Sally Field of cities, really wanting people to like us. But it's almost like now we're getting a little too many people liking us. And folks are pretty, they're not as excited as I would expect it for this idea, this whole proposal. What's your take?
Well, and according to city boosters and state boosters, we want people to like us so much that we're willing to pay them to like us. That hasn't gone away. And I think that's the biggest issue that's coming up with Amazon. If Amazon, which says they want kind of the size of their Seattle campus, the feel of their Seattle campus, Colorado would be Denver would be a natural. They wouldn't even care that we have pot. Remember when that was going to be a big problem? No one would want to come here because of pot. If they just wanted to come here for our mountains and our nice people and our good lifestyle and our sun, which they don't have, that would be fine. But I think people who are looking at incredible rent, housing prices going up, traffic, I was stuck on I-25 for an hour yesterday at 3 o'clock, and you're like, that should not be happening. They look at this and they're like, do we really need to pay someone? Pay them $10 million and God knows how much more to come here. Do we need to do that, or can we just get it on our own? It's interesting, San Antonio's already opted out of this beauty pageant. And remember, it's a beauty pageant where the contestants must bribe the judges. They've opted out. We'll see what other cities opt out. But when you go out and talk to people about this outside, say, of boardrooms and the Chamber of Commerce and City Council, people are mad. They do not want Amazon to be paid to come here.
David, I think we know where you might be going on this analysis, but are you surprised by the general reaction so far that speaks to some of the points you've made in the past about rolling out the red carpet, so to speak?
Well, red carpet is just a nice little ceremonial thing. It's like when you're paying people to walk on it, it becomes even worse. But even without the welfare aspect, you know, where the people's slogan of who are trying to do this is come to Colorado and so you can go on welfare. Even without the corporate welfare aspect to it, I don't want them to come. As Patty said, housing prices are making it next to impossible for people, you know, buying their first home in Denver to actually be able to afford a home. This will make it all the worse. Our economy is doing fine without them. And part of the reason we have a good economy and a good quality of life in Colorado is people can go to the mountains and enjoy the outdoors, and I think that improves their character in all kinds of ways. And already that system is so overstrained with the incredible traffic jams that exist on I-70. 50,000 more people is just going to make that all the worse. So instead of live in Colorado and recreate in the mountains, it's going to be like living in San Francisco, where maybe there's a lot of good stuff nearby, but you can't ever get to it because the city's so full of traffic jams. And besides that, our Constitution outlaws corporate welfare. I know the courts don't enforce it, and most elected officials don't care about their oaths to the Constitution, but they ought to, and the people ought to stand up for our Constitution and say no corporate welfare for any business.
I'm really happy we got all the way back to the Constitution part. I was kind of counting on that kind of connection. That's good. Eric, Denverites, even people in Colorado, getting angry about growth and actually not wanting something to happen. Does it seem like history repeating itself?
It is history repeating itself. I've not seen an issue, that catalyzes quite this quickly, and where you cannot divide people by the typical dividing lines. This is not left and right, Democrat and Republican, old, young. I mean, I think the sensitivity out there crosses all those lines. I have not seen an issue in a very long time, Dominic, where there is such a disconnect between what I call elite opinion, boardroom opinion, high government level opinion, that is, you know, wetting itself over the prospect of getting Amazon here, and broader public opinion, which is very leery and very dubious of this proposition. In terms of history, some of us are dating ourselves at this table, but it sure smacks to me a lot like 1972, or really 1970, 2 years in advance of 1972, when all the powers that be, governor on down, Chamber of Commerce leader, etc., were wedding themselves and bringing the Winter Olympics to Colorado. And then it got petitioned on by an aspiring young politician, Dick Lamb, who became my mentor, more importantly, became the 12-year governor of this state, who led an effort, put it on the ballot, and the voters resoundingly said thanks, but no thanks. Whether this will follow that path, I don't know, but if there is subsidy involved, as clearly there is that potential that voters could be heard from. There is a disconnect here. Ultimately, Amazon, I don't know what Jeff Bezos and the other people in the executive suite of Amazon are thinking, but I think there is a school of thought that they need to make not just an economic decision, but almost a national, call it patriotic decision. And do they send this to a growth city like a Denver that is doing quite well? Or do they use this to reboot an old, aging Midwestern industrial city? And I'm going to be very curious to see where they come down.
Penn, you've worked with a variety of state agencies when you were a lawmaker. Do you think that if the Office of Economic Development folks were here to, I don't want to say defend themselves, but to give them their point of view, they might say, yeah, I understand we're really packed right now full of people and the economy's doing well, we don't want 50,000 more people, but guys, in 5-10 years, we may not feel that way. This is the long play. What do you think is the right play for folks in government in approaching an opportunity like this?
You know, this is difficult because I think Eric's right. Typically, folks in government and the Chamber of Commerce type, their instinct is to go out and get this business opportunity. They see the opportunity for growth, enhancing the vitality of the community. 50,000 jobs is no drop in the bucket. And just the cachet of having a company like Amazon put their second headquarters here, it's too big to resist. And so you've got to go after it. But I think Eric's right. There seems to be a disconnect, because what I hear people saying is that, traffic is horrible, downtown is horrible because half the lanes are now limited to buses, the other half belong to the bicycles, and nobody can ever find a bicycle in a bike lane downtown. We can't park anywhere, and now you're going to bring 50,000 more people in, and I'm not going to get one of these jobs that pays $100,000 a year. So why do I want more people crowding and congesting? And the chamber types will tell you, well, no, if we do this, it'll spur more economic activity, it'll bring more tax revenue in, and it'll more than pay for itself. But people always forget the very Byzantine impacts of Tabor. And one of the things we have seen on the state and local level over time repeatedly is that when your revenues grow faster than what Tabor allows you to grow, it's just a wasted opportunity, which is why we have the problem now with congested highways and dilapidated infrastructure and things falling apart, which is partly why the city's got a nearly $1 billion bond package on the ballot for November, because we have not been able to maintain infrastructure consistent with growth. And part of that is because Tabor won't let us. So we can bring in Amazon and it may generate a whole bunch of economic activity and revenue, but the reality is we aren't going to be able to use it all.